Hey, the screen just said we live, Coach VO.
We are
So
live. It's all the
right,
way.
that's Lakeside. It's all the way live, man. Hey, man, these young cats ain't, and I understand music is, where I'm going. It is what it
Yes.
is. I didn't have my dad, my mom's music. They didn't have mine, but there was just something about that '80s, that late '70s and that '80s, man, and just the tip, maybe just the beginning of the '90s. I'm not quite sure. And when the ballads were kicking, and
Oh man.
you'd go to concerts, and you could sit and listen, to the musicians and the artists, and they would play natural, man. We're just laughing. Lakeside.
Man, timeless. You
It's
know,
all the way live, man.
it's all the way live.
Right.
You know, I was telling some youngins, man, our era was the
Oh,
most sampled.
yeah, 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 yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? When it
yeah.
comes down to, when they want a real dope beat or, something that's
Step
gonna
two.
jump, you know, and yeah, man.
Right.
So it
Hey, what
is.
was the
It's
first
all the way
concert?
live.
What was the first concert you went to?
Marvin Gaye
Ooh,
and Curtis Mayfield.
ooh.
Ooh, a skull banging session, brother. My chin got stretched.
Right, right,
Marvin Gaye was talking about distant lover, and
right.
boy, he
Oh, okay. It just froze just now. It just froze. You better not be freezing now. You better not be freezing now. Don't do that. Don't do that. Hey, you guys, welcome. Um, you got VO and DG here. We want to talk about Belize, but my man VO is frozen. And we want to wish you guys a happy Friday. Here he comes. There he is. We wish you guys a happy Friday. Yeah, and I tell you what, it has been. We were just talking about music. You know, I tell you what, we would do this. Grab us a cup of coffee, grab us a Starbucks, and we would start a conversation in one, and it end up another 2-3 hours later. It would end up in a whole nother direction. And there was a point in time in Colorado. He and I were doing a radio broadcast. And we've always talked about, hey, let's connect and do something where we could, literally share with folks our conversations that we typically have. And that's kind of what we do. It looks like Fridays are going to work, but my man VO, is the net got him. He'll be back. The net got him. And so I was asking him what's his first concert, and I think here he is. I think my first concert. My older brother used to take us, and I don't remember my first concert, but I remember my memorable, the ones that just really, made an impression. I went to see Michael Jackson. I seen Frankie Beverly and Mays and the Rocks. I seen Grover Washington, Pieces of a Dream, and Patrice Rushen. That was one concert. It was straight dangerous. So Pieces of a Dream came first, and then Patrice Rushen, she could play all the instruments. And then Grover, when you go to Red Rocks, you go, stop by Capri's, get your chicken, you go up early. You know what I'm saying? You in the amphitheater, you walking around, you seeing everybody you ain't seen, you hugging, showing love, eating on your Capri's, drinking your soda. And then when the night falls, you scoot everything underneath your seat. You scoot
yes,
everything
sir.
underneath the seat, because it's dark. And Grover Washington, here's what he said. He said, y'all just sit back and relax. And man, Grover Washington, it was live, man. It was live. And so I tell you what, those things you don't forget, man. I was there. I remember when. So, hey, happy Friday, Coach.
Man, happy Friday to you, man. Happy Friday.
Yeah, it looks like Friday might work for us, man, until you have to start basketball season, which is going to be around the corner. A lot of folks don't know, or maybe they don't remember, because I've always talked about it. Like you're a coach's coach. You're really a basketball coach, man. And I can't ask you what school you coach at, because you already you're already rocking them, man. GW,
I rep it well, man. You know what I'm saying,
right,
man. they adopted me as part of the culture, man. I was on the other side of the fence, you know,
Right.
in the high school years, but I always respected the program. They always put out some great, you know what I mean? I mean, you couldn't go in G-Dub and just, you know what I'm saying? You had to come in there with a
Right.
mission.
Right.
And yeah, and a mandate. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, it's a great place, man. We've done well, man. We've
Y'all
been
went
to
to
the
state champ.
dance.
Y'all went to state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last year. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're going back this year. So
Come
you
on.
know, we're gonna just put that out there in the air.
Right. Right.
We got a good group of kids, man, and like I said, man, we've been blessed to have some really, really, talented young men, and they're looking to do, their part, and we know the
Incredible
pathway to get
things.
there. Yep.
Right. Yeah, you know the pathway to get there. It's interesting because today we want to talk about beliefs, and we know 4 components, which we'll get into, but there's more. There's not just 4 strict components. Those are things that just really come to my mind. What you think, what you feel, what you say, what you do. Well, listen, you believe y'all going there. You believe that the kids and that you're coaching and the group that you're taking, you guys are going there. You already said it. Like, listen, we're going back. We're going to be, not only are we going back, you're already decreeing it. What are y'all right now? State champs.
That's right.
Hey, we're state champs.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it home. Yeah,
right.
Bring it
Has
home,
the basket been shot yet? Has the basket been made? None of that yet.
Not yet.
Right. But you execute, you are speaking those things which not what?
As though they are.
As though they are, brother.
Yeah, as though they are, man.
Right. And we're big on speaking those things, understanding consciously, aware of our words, our thoughts, our process. And then one of the things that you're doing, not only coaching, but depositing that into them young minds, man.
Absolutely.
Depositing that. Yeah. Yep. A true coach.
Yeah, we got to, man. We have to, man. You only have so much time with them. We get blessed to exit a class, but you always inherit a brand new class coming in.
Right.
Young, impressionable minds, man. And it's the changing of the guard. The other leaders emerge, and I see, guys like Juwan Thompson, man. He was a junior last year. Provided some good leadership, man. But he stepped into his leadership role from day one. Like, it's clear. Vinnie May, Isaiah West, Shakur Evans. I mean, these kids, like, they making it known that, this is their time.
This is their time.
Yes,
I love it. So if you look at their senior, these are juniors and seniors, are probably most seniors now. You could see the geometric progression. Can I go ahead and borrow from you? The geometric progression from their sophomore year, their freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Yes. It's rhetorical what I'm about to say, but would you agree that there are levels to this? There are levels. You see, there is a level in understanding. There's a level in beliefs. There's a level in belief. It's one thing to believe now as a senior because you were like a basket or 2 away versus when you was a freshman and sophomore. Everything is levels, man. Everything is levels, Coach.
It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere you look, man. There are levels of hearing,
Yes.
People hear at different levels. You know what I mean? They just,
they
could be in the same room, but, people are hearing on the levels that they're on.
Right.
And so they can only receive based on, the particular level that they're at, so you can't expect, what I'm saying? We talk about the Pareto principle that, 20% of the people do 80% of the work,
right.
And, that 20% hear on a different level than the 80. They hear something totally different, so they respond differently. Therefore, they get a different result. And so, it's levels to it, man. And so I'm so appreciative, to have been shown that. So that way, you can't, You can't turn the 80%er into a 20% until they hear on that particular level. Then they can enter in,
Right.
through that door to hear as a 20%er. You know what I mean?
Which is I do, and I always love to slow things down because you throw them out and you throw them quickly. But and I'm used to listening to the nuggets and grabbing them. But you said, if you're hearing, if you want a result, one of the things you need to do is change the way you begin to transform, not just necessarily change, because change is always slow at best, but begin to transform your hearing. And if because hearing is extremely key, because if I'm hearing nothing but junk, if I'm surrounded myself with naysayers and those that really are lacking in certain levels and beliefs, if I'm continuing to hear that, if I hear nothing but bad news, I just think nothing but bad news is happening the whole time. So then now the result that I will begin to manifest is a lot of times based on what I'm, my thought process.
Amen. What you're privy to, you know what I mean? You can't a person to move beyond their ability to hear, to think, feel, and say, you know what I mean? Because, it's going to put them at a certain point in time, you know what I mean? And so, that's why I try to listen more than I talk.
That's the ancient writings. That's a sign of maturity. And it's nothing new. People, you've heard it before. That's why they would say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. But we are tricked into just running off at the gums and not listening. You learn more by listening. I listen more. And when someone uses the phrase like, I was thinking, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me hear what you were thinking. I'm going to be quiet because they will share what they're thinking, and those are their thoughts. So it helps me to understand who they are. It helps me to understand where they are, So there's great discipline in listening.
Oh, man. I mean, boy, Jesus would always say, that's why he said, he that hath an ear, let him hear.
Right.
Let him hear. Faith comes by
hearing. Okay.
Hearing.
So let's go out and let's dive a little deeper with that one. I mean,
Okay.
We got places we can go. So when we hear, originally when you're introduced to it, you think hearing with my natural ears, like my ears are covered with these, so I can hear you better here. But when the master teacher is talking, it's not necessarily, there's levels. It's not these two things that are inside of my head. There's another level of hearing. He says, let he that hath an ear hear what the Spirit is what?
Saying.
Coach, how, you have to put you on the spot. So then, like, how does that work? Tell me, how do you begin to really hear?
It's all, he talked about the entire body, going through this transformation. Like,
yes,
he said they have eyes, but they don't see. He have an ears, but not hearing. Yeah. And then they have a mouth, but they're not speaking the right things, So the transformation has to take care of the whole experience,
Right.
The whole, you got to have a whole new transformation in the sensory piece, you know what I mean? Because, we see things, man, he said, man looks at the outward appearance, but God, he's saying something totally deeper. And he talked about the hearing, he that has an ear. Everybody's got an ear, but who has the spiritual ear to hear to discern what's being said in the spirit? There's a different vibration from a spiritual. You could just sit in silence and you're going to hear something, and like I said, we talked about it before, when we tried to sit in silence and boy, you heard all those voices and you didn't know how many yaks you had going on, in your head, even still, you have to filter through all the stuff, the minutia, and be still and know, and so when that happens, man, and then your speech is going to change. Your eyes are going to change. Your ears are going to change. And your speech is going to change. You'll start speaking, those things, calling those things that are not. People will say, well, that doesn't seem right. It seems like you're lying. No, I'm not lying. I'm telling you the immense truth. everything that you see came from that what you didn't see.
See, right.
And
Right. That's heavy right there. Everything that
yeah,
you see came from what you didn't see, which is so true. You know, when you're talking about hearing, you ever been somewhere, and I always like to use this as an example. You ever been in a place, no, like Fred Hammond said, I ain't been good all my little life.
that's right. That's
and
right.
and you were somewhere, it could have been a house party or something. We're talking about, in the 70s and 80s when they was really jumping in. And you just said, man, something don't feel right. You would
Right.
say something don't feel right. Hey, man, I'm not getting a good vibe. We would say something like, I'm not getting a good vibe here.
Correct.
And other people around you may not have picked up on that vibe, or they may not have picked up on that feeling. But, you said, hey, you guys, I'm about to dip because it's just not feeling right. And then your camera's facing upward. And then
okay.
come to find
down.
out, come to find out that something may or may not have popped off. And you're like, man, I had to get up out of there. So there is something when using that word something, but that internal ear, that internal feelings, those internal eyes, they're really the guide to helping you to navigate on this level and on this dimension,
Correct.
And so, which is very powerful. And, we talked about beliefs. First of all, hey guys, thank you for joining. Those if you're going to be watching this live, or if you're going to be watching it, sometime here in the near future, if you're watching it live and you want to, just quick commercial, and you want to comment, or you want to be a part, hey, just click on, you good. Just click on that StreamYard link, and we will be able to see your comments. Like Adam's on here. Hey, Adam, good to see you. Great to see you. Adam clicked on that link, and I can see his comments live. And so, they'll come over something like that. Hey, great to see you. So you may have a question. You may have something that, while you're watching us live, that you can click it. And really, we've started last week, Coach, talking about beliefs, which are extremely powerful. What's up, family? And we talked about some components, what you think, what you feel, and what you say, and what you do. I know in my own life that the more that I see it, the more that I hear it, it becomes repetition. Then I begin to move into that phrase, or that phase of the unconscious conscious. Is that what that phase is?
That's correct.
There are 4 phases in that.
Correct.
You want to talk about those 4 phases?
Yeah, the one, you start off with unconscious incompetence. That's where we all start at. Hey, you don't know what you don't know.
Oh, you're free. The unconscious incompetent. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. He's gonna come back here, and I just be throwing things at him, not throwing things. I'm like, hey, Coach, you want to talk about this? Because none of this is scripted. None of this is scripted. And hey, Coach Via, wherever you are, you got kind of caught up there. And so, hey, once again, I just want to let you know, if you're watching us live, you can click on that link. And it says StreamYard. So if you're watching us from Facebook, or maybe you'll be watching this a little bit later, and you can go ahead and leave us some comments. But I tell you what, he is he'll get back with us in just a moment. But we were talking about beliefs. Yeah, he'll come back in. We were talking about beliefs, and last week was really, really cool because there were 4 things in which we were discussing on your belief system: what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do. And it is so key because all 4 of these are really wrapped into one. They're all the same, and you can tell because the do part is the last part. Your action is the last part. Listen, you're always, before you ever do anything, you're going to be thinking about it, you're going to be feeling it, you're going to be saying it. Hey, listen, for example, let's say you're thirsty. Let's say you're thirsty. You develop a thirst. All of a sudden, you're thinking, like, how do I quench this thirst? Listen, if I'm thinking, how do I quench this thirst? And we do it so unconsciously, not that like, I am thirsty. Now I need to go get water. You just begin to move in the manifestation of the thirst that was created. You first think about it, not knowing you're thinking about it. Then there's a feeling of parchness, And then you're having that internal dialogue, like, okay, am I going to go buy a bottle of water? Am I going to go be doing this? Going to be doing this? When can I do it? Can I go get it now? There's a lot that's taking place before the manifestation of you actually having that cool glass or that cool bottle. See, those processes are really simple. They really are simple, but we do them on an unconscious basis. We do it not knowingly. And it's interesting because I'm hearing so much on how to manifest, and people are like giving you 20 ways to manifest and this many ways to manifest, and you need to do it this way or you need to do it that way. It's creating such complexity on something that is simple and something you're doing all the time anyhow. So the challenge is to be aware of what you're thinking, you're feeling, you're saying, and what you're doing, because you're having an internal dialogue. You're always carrying on an internal dialogue. Question: what is the dialogue that you have? And this is something we talked about last week. What is the dialogue that you have before you ever open up your eyes? Before you ever open your eyes in the morning, you're coming out of the different states of sleep, and then you're laying there. And most folks, a lot of times, people are, hey, I got to be at work, or I got this and I got that, and here he is. And a lot of times, welcome back, Coach. And a lot of times, people are thinking something that happened yesterday. Really, a lot of times, folks are dealing with a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. And those are the thoughts that's taking place on the internal. And then you get to see it manifest on your external. Coach, we were talking about those 4 levels.
Yeah, man. I was talking about unconscious incompetence. Again, you don't know what you don't know. And, there's no way for you to know it because you haven't been exposed to it. You haven't been brought into it. The key is exposure. The more you're exposed to it, the better your comprehension is going to be, the more you'll be able to dial in. But the next level of learning is what they call unconscious competence.
Yes.
Okay. Now you know that you don't know.
That you don't know.
Right.
Right.
The third level is what they call conscious competence. And then you move into that level of mastery is what they call unconscious competence. You know what
Correct.
I mean? And so now you know that you know that you know that you know. And that's where mastery kicks in at. That's when you can drive and do certain things,
Yes.
while you drive. You shouldn't do it, but
right.
Again, people have gotten proficient doing it. You know what I mean? And so those 4 levels of.
Right. It's simple. It's something simple. Like if I start a new job, I'm in an unconscious, incompetent. I don't know what I'm doing,
Correct.
And then when you start like, you're looking, as you continue to progress there, you're really like, hey, I don't, I'm conscious. I really don't know. You start seeking out, answers. You begin to start asking questions, because when you first start, you don't even know what questions to ask. You're just like, I don't know where to begin. I don't even know the questions to begin to ask. But then when I become aware that I don't know, I begin now to say, okay, begin to know what questions I can ask, and really the people who to ask it. Then you move into, hey, I have the answers, and now I'm becoming proficient in what I know. And then there's that level you move in, and you can just do it with your eyes closed. You can. Right. It's seamless. You do it. Here, I'm about to say, without even thinking about it. You do it and you move without even thinking about it. It's the same thing, but greater in the spiritual dimension. It's right. Greater in the spiritual dimension. And, we were talking about beliefs, and all of us go through these phases as we're progressing. We're always going through these phases as we are learning, as we're growing, as we're transforming. Those phases hit every one of us, And, like, for example, moving here to Florida, bro, I thank God for GPS. I knew what I didn't know. And now I can navigate through the city. And like you say, talking on the phone, but earbuds,
Yes.
I can navigate where I want to go. I can already see myself there where I want to go. And before I ever get there. And so those levels are always in front of us. What are your thoughts on that?
It's so good. I was looking at a a piece of scripture, and it was I think John 16:16. And Jesus was saying he dropped some heavy dynamite. You know, he shared a perspective with the disciples, and he kind of told them what he was going to show them before it actually took place, and he said something like, "A little while you're going to see me." and then in a little while you're not going to see me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to the Father or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but it was the fact that there was a deeper dive there. There was a deep dive there. Like, you're going to see me for a while, but then I'm gonna go away, and you're not going to see me.
Right.
But by me going away, you're going to hear my voice, but you're not just going to hear it audibly. You're going to hear it through you.
Yes.
You're not going to see me physically sitting down eating broiled fish with you, but you're going to see me in everything and in everyone.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? You're gonna take a deeper dive. You're gonna, it's not gonna happen to you. It's gonna happen through you.
Yes.
See, I had to lay hands on people while I was walking around in this, but now I'm not gonna lay hands. I'm gonna use your hands.
Yes.
I'm gonna use not my mouth. I'm gonna use your mouth. It's gonna be my voice coming through your mouth.
Yes.
Okay. And you're gonna have to trust that it's me. Now, see, there's a deeper dive. This is why I said, when people say, well, I didn't see it that way. Well, just because you didn't see it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's some things, man. That's why he talked about now faith. Now, faith isn't now, it's not faith. He said now faith is the substance now, the substratum of things hoped for, but it's also evidence of things that are not seen on this plane. But just because they're not seen on this plane
does not mean,
that doesn't mean that, there's a plane in the unseen world where you always see things that other people don't see. People say, well, I don't, how can you do that? I say, well, you do it all the time. You saw yourself getting dressed before you got dressed. And nobody knew what you were going to wear but you.
That's it. Yes.
When you reduce it down to the ridiculous, you say, hey, they got to stop these people from acting like, this is some mysticism or this is something way so deep that you can't get under. We do it all the time. It's hidden in plain sight. We do it so fast to where we think we're not being cognitive, but you got so proficient at it that you think that you didn't have a thought. But see, thought supersedes all manifestation. All manifestation.
Yes.
Even if you did it in an unconscious level, but it still was a thought.
Yes.
But the thought was so refined, it moved to a different realm, right? That caused you to feel a certain way, right? And we talked about the beliefs, we're saying, hey man, the feeling is a secret.
Right.
I feel like you're ignoring me, or I feel like you're not,
right.
you're not gonna let me say what look here, man. Who gave you that feeling?
Come on.
Okay.
Right.
See, and now those feelings bring about a certain actions, and those actions are going to bring about a certain result.
Man, there it is. That's for me. Right.
Good, bad, or indifferent, man. But Jesus, he had to get them into the realm to where they saw, they start saying among themselves, what does he mean by, a little while you're going to see me and then a little while you're not going to see me. And so
that sounds like a dichotomy, man. That would mess you up. Like, hey, he says in that John, like a little, you're going to see me. He says, first you don't see me, then you're going to see me, and then I'm going to go. Like, okay, what are we going to see you, not see you? You're going, because he's speaking on another level.
On another level.
I'm speaking on another level. You guys are hearing me on one level. I'm speaking on another level, but don't worry, you got to come up. You got to come up to where I am. And there's another word, where I am. and wherever I am, there what? There you will be.
You may be also. You gotta be here, man.
You gotta be here, brother. And it moves beyond religion. It moves beyond. Someone said, man, because I broadcast these on my other pages. Like, why is he talking about, this Jesus thing or this religious thing? I'm not trying to convey, or I'm not trying to persuade on your beliefs. I'm saying, well, we're sharing from the master book, from the ancient writings, that which has transformed, my life. Transform my life. And so it's not just so that you can say, well, I go here or I go there, or I don't believe in none of that. I don't believe in Jesus. Well, great. If you don't, well, great. This isn't one of the things to try to convert you. It's listen to the principles because you're doing it anyway. You're executing it anyway, whether you realize it or not. Listen, all of us see ourselves getting dressed before we ever put any piece of clothing on.
That's true. That's so true.
Every one of us. I don't care if it's a pair of tattered jeans, it's a pair of whatever. You see yourself doing it. All of us have had feelings. We've said, you know what? I don't feel like this today, or you made me feel. All of us are feelings, and then all of us use, for the most part, the spoken word. We speak, or we're using a form of communication on how we're feeling, which is now giving us a result, i.e. a manifestation. So it's not about, well, whether you know or believe or don't believe in how I believe. It is listening to the principles and the nuggets to help you navigate on this dimension. Hey, I think you froze again, but that's all right. That's all right.
Man.
There you go. Hey, we were talking about belief, and I there's something I wanted to get into, and hey, we in that book is that Mark chapter 5, man. And there it's so good. I want to give a quick backdrop on the story because I'll probably do some reading and we can pick it up next week too. But there was a story of this man who's and I want to help to apply it to where we are today. Jairus was his name. It's interesting because names are important. When we understand the power of a name, we understand the creative power of a name. It's so interesting. We're careful on what you name your kids. You're careful on what you name that, because that goes back to in the beginning of Genesis, where everything was already created. And he said, Adam, whatever you name it, that's what it is. When we understand the creative power of naming something, listen, wherever you work, before they had to sit down and say, okay, what are we going to call this? And McDonald's, or however the last name, or Walton or Walmart have it. Everything began with a name. Somebody said, "What are we going to call it?" Behind every name is the nature.
Amen.
It's careful what you're naming something. Careful what you're decreeing something. Careful because you bring that nature upon you.
Correct.
And so Jairus, he's a ruler of the synagogue, coach, and he met with the master teacher because there was a problem. His problem was what? That his daughter, he had a daughter, something that he cared for, one that he loved, and his daughter was at the point of death. She ain't died yet, but she was at the point of death. Hey, coach, many people are in a place or situation, and it doesn't look like it's in its finality, but they're in a pickle, and they're looking for answers. And the heartbreak is not even knowing where to go. So Jairus and we're just playing around here. He probably never even met the master teacher. He just heard about him. He heard about him and said, I heard this person's a healer. I've got an issue. So this is serious. So let me go and see. Let me go meet him because, I'm in great stature. Let me go meet him and see if he can and know that he will heal my daughter. What do you think about that?
Wow, that's a powerful piece.
Oh, you're freezing on me.
Heard something.
Come on.
Hey man, so that piqued his interest. Just like some of you might be listening now. You say, well, that doesn't have any validity. I'm not like that. So, well, just by you hearing this, it could spark something in you to say, well, let me listen just a little bit more.
Yes.
Let me see about this principle that you're talking about, and let me see if it's applicable that I can apply this to, 2021, 21st century living.
Yes. Yes.
But Jairus, he's like, hey man, listen, he had status, he had all of the, he said, but he still had an issue. See, it doesn't matter about how much power, how much money, how much, life is lessened.
Yes. Yes.
And he said, you can live a certain amount of time and it ought to say something to you. It ought to have a conversation with you. The scripture talked about, days should speak. And a multitude of years ought to tell you something,
Right.
He said,
right.
but there's a spirit in man, that the inspiration, inspiration of the Lord, giveth understanding. Now
Yes.
you need to know that this spirit that's in you, greater is he that's in you. See,
Yes.
Jairus had to find out, what was really in him.
He had to find out. And
Yes,
so
sir.
the circumstance, situation, and event brought him to it.
Brought
See,
him
there
to
are
it.
times I tell people you get so caught up in this circumstance. And I always seem to look up because I'm thinking, like, there are times things take place. There are many times events and circumstances take place in our life, and we get caught up in it, because we can't see the end of it yet.
Correct.
We cannot see the end. That's the reason why I always say I move in gratitude, because you can become so focused on the event that it can become paralyzing. I love what you said about Jairus. Like, he was a ruler. He had stature. This man, I'm sure he could walk down the streets and people would recognize him or want to talk to him. But something took place that his stature couldn't handle, or his stature was null and void. His stature was null and void. Who he was null and void. The situation was greater than his position in where he was. And a lot of times we see ourselves with that, man, and all it did was birth something. It began to birth. There are a lot of times you might be going through something, I might be, or people are watching this later or watching it now, you're going through something, but really it's beginning to birth something in you. Belief, coach, is very powerful. Very powerful.
Boy, I tell you, man, but he had to get to where the master was. He had to get to where that principle was.
Yeah, that principle. Yeah.
And then another word came to the master teacher, and said, hey, this thing, now the problem got a little worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes we say, well, hey, listen, wait a minute. She was at the point of death.
Yeah.
But then there came a word that she was dead.
Right.
Now, what happened? What do you do when you're doing all the right stuff and then the situation gets worse?
Come on.
You understand what I'm saying? How do you do what do you do? You know what to do when the brook is flowing, but what do you do when the brook dries up? Are you gonna speak in tongues then? I mean, hey, wait a minute. What do you do when the bread is gone? There's no bread in the oven.
Right.
Okay. Everybody know what to do when they got some bread in the oven. Everybody know what to do when everything is, the violins are playing. The sun is shining. All the good stuff is happening. The bells are ringing in the background. You understand what I'm saying? That's wonderful. But what do you do when the situation gets worse?
Oh boy. And he was facing that. In between that, there was a story of the woman with the issue of blood. There was she began to execute a principle. She said, if I just can, she said, the scripture says, she said, I said to myself, if I could, she began to execute that belief, because she said, if I said to myself, if I could just touch the hem, I know I'll be made whole. That's belief. That hadn't been done before. There was no precedent upon that. And people, knowing the times and knowing, what she did was illegal, that didn't matter, And Jairus, remember, he's watching all this. He's watching all this. And there's sometimes you can watch in your face, it's like your faith is beginning to increase, your belief is increased, and then you get hit with the tsunami. The tsunami came and said, listen, you might as well just cut it off because she's not here. And here's what I wanted to get to when we're talking about belief, what you think, feel, you say, and do. Because the master teacher said this, and I'm going to go into 35. While he yet was speaking, there came from the ruler's synagogue. Sometimes news comes from those. Here's what it is, man, from the synagogue, from the house. And, okay, listen to me. I was trained that I'm always focusing outward. You know, if something came to me, I'm thinking somebody or something came from the outward to speak to me. Really, your house, your inward voice is the one that's going to bring the more negative thing to you. So there was something, no one's closer to you than your own thoughts. I don't care if you're married. I've been married to my thoughts are closer because they've been with me longer than anything. And so it said here, why you expect it came from the ruler of the synagogue's house, which said, thy daughter is dead. Why troubled the master? And as soon as the master teacher, Jesus, heard the words he spoke and said to the ruler, be not afraid, only believe.
Wow.
You know, you can interpret it, yes, from outside of the ruler's house. At the ruler's house, someone came, brought the bad news. But if we're looking at a house, know ye are the temple, know you are the house. That news comes from within. And will try and discourage. It will try and discourage.
Amen.
But the master teacher said, listen, there was no doubt from the master teacher. And he said unto him, do not be afraid. What did he tell him to do? Only do what?
Only believe.
Yeah.
You know, and we told the people, we shared with them the concept of what belief is. Belief is a feeling.
Yeah.
Of absolute certainty. Now, you can develop a belief in anything. You know, we all believe something.
Yeah. Yep.
Even if we say, I don't believe that. Well, you believe that you don't believe. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You believe in something, you know. And even if you believe that you don't believe, you know, you believe in something. You understand what I'm saying? There was a movie, I forget what Richard Pryor was in, and he was the do-right reverend. He said, but, you know, you got to believe something.
Right.
And if you can't find nothing else to believe in, why not believe in me? You know, he was stretching around, you know.
Yeah, right, Reverend Richard Pryor, right.
Richard Pryor played the part, man. He was like, he came to the car wash. It was his car wash.
Yeah, that was the movie. Yeah, it was the movie. Yeah.
The Reverend came up and said, man, you got to believe something now. But if you can't find nothing else to believe in, why not believe in me?
Right.
And you know, like I said, you know, when it comes down to belief, though, the master teacher was teaching, he was getting ready to stretch Jairus' tent. You know, he was going to pull it to a place and enlarge his territory to show him that, like, listen, man, you know, be not afraid. Only believe.
Be not afraid.
My goodness, man. You can't, you know, fear and faith cannot occupy the same place at the same time. You know,
they cannot.
You know, come on, oil and water don't mix.
Does not. No.
Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. You know, either you're going to be in faith or guess what? You're automatically in fear.
Either or. And one of the things I share with people, like, okay, like, where do you begin? I'm careful. We're back to speaking now. Do you understand? Most time when things happen, we talk about the problem.
Correct.
You know, we are so focused on the problem, and then we begin to share the problem with so many people. You know, you begin to share it with people. And truth be told, it is what it is. A lot of people rejoice in downfall than they ever do and rejoice in victory for a person. Because they're normally going to take that information and run with someone else, you know, and run and tell it. But I have learned to surround myself with those people that are faith, that understand belief, that will speak encouraging words. There's sometimes, man, you just need an encouraging word that comes from the outside. You know, Jairus needed to hear at that moment, hey, don't be afraid. Only believe. Because if not, his belief system would have fallen. He couldn't have accepted anything else but the finality of death. Listen, it is not over for you, whoever's listening to this, whatever you are, wherever your belief is in spirituality, it is not over. It is definitely not over for you. What do you have, Coach?
Right. It's like, you see the momentum of the resurrection. Here it was, you see this resurrection gaining momentum because this wasn't, the widow at Nain's son got raised from the dead. Now, you know what I'm saying? Here, that was the first, and then here comes, Jairus' daughter now, then there was Lazarus, and then there was the master teacher himself. But each time you see the resurrection gaining momentum, you see the geometric progressiveness of the resurrection. He's introducing them into I am the resurrection and the life. You understand what I'm saying? Like, just like, a little while you're gonna see me, but after a while you're not gonna see me no more.
Right.
But you're gonna see me.
Right.
You understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, you're gonna see me everywhere. And even when he rose from the dead, you understand what I'm saying? Even when our consciousness gets lifted and resurrected now, it shows itself alive now. For 40 days, he showed himself alive. You understand?
Yes.
No, come here, handle me, touch me. Come on. You know what I'm saying? A body now, with all blood. Now, see, we sometimes, that's why he said, lift up your eyes upon the fields.
Yes.
He's telling you to lift your consciousness up. Sometimes you got to look above the circumstance. Sometimes maybe 3 or 4 inches above the circumstance, and begin to lift and see that the fields are white. The harvest is ripe. But guess what? The people who are going to practice this, put this into practice, are few.
Yes.
Not everybody wants to lift and see that the fields are white. Not everybody's going to look on it and say, you know what, greater is he. That's what people begin to say. He said, you're of God, little children, and you have overcome them. Why? Because greater is he. Now, if I don't do nothing great,
right,
how can he prove himself to be greater?
That's game right there.
Ooh-wee,
greater. Right. Greater. Right.
Oh, over to you, Coach. Man.
We're at our 45, 47 minutes, and I always try and leave something that you can work on that helps you. It's going to help you today, wherever you are. Listen, as you're surveying the landscape, on every side, you got this going on over here. You got the COVID going on here. You got people expiring, not expiring. You've got question on this and this, and it can become paralyzing. Many folks are paralyzed because they're not knowing what to do. And so, let me encourage you. I love to encourage, Coach. Let me encourage you that.
That's beautiful.
Those that really can grab a hold on what we're sharing, you can look above your circumstance and your situation. If you're watching this live or you'll watch it later. I get calls now. Hey, I was watching that. People are watching. They may not have put any comments, but they're watching it. When we're back in Colorado, my brothers and my sister, hey, I was watching you. I'm like, I didn't even know you were watching, but we're bringing that word of encouragement, and Friday encouragement, our Friday encouragement. And so you can be like Jairus, and you're going to go through something's taking place in your life, or the lives close to you, and you don't know what to do. You know what? There's the master teacher. Amen. And surround yourself with people that walk in faith and not fear. Surround yourself people that walk in faith and not fear. Coach, thank you.
Thank you,
I know
sir.
you're probably getting ready to go start training them little ones, because look like you dressed about to go get it in there.
About to get it in, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, man, for having me on, man. We want to thank each, the person that might be listening. And again, like you said, man, You know, greater is He that's in you. You know, you got to learn to. You know, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let it go, because here's one of the things. You know, there are a lot of times when you're flying. You know, sometimes you're in a plane and you're flying and it's clear. I mean, visibility is so far I mean, it's so. But then there's those times when those planes go into complete turbulence out of nowhere. You know, clouds come and boy, all of a sudden now you're bouncing around. You don't know how to do it. Well, that pilot has learned how to not be taken back by that stuff. Why? Because he learns how to trust the instruments. And see, we got to learn how to trust, you know, the instruments on the inside. It's not what's on the outside of us. It's what's on the inside. See, that training that he had on the inside of him showed him how to fly with the instruments. But it's that internal piece that he has from that training, that when you get into turbulence, don't try to handle that thing manually. You got to fly by the instruments. You got to trust the instruments. And that's what we got to do when we're going into these vicissitudes of life. We got to trust the master teacher, the training that we received, man, on how to know that greater is He
that is in me.
Oh,
my He in the world.
Love you,
Coach.
man.
Love you too. Have a good Friday.
Peace and blessings to you.
Likewise. All right, Coach.
All right, peace.